Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Engaging Titan. We're on Prokhorovka, winter mode and standard battle, and I'm in the Sturer Emil. It's not a fully upgraded Sturer Emil, it has the penultimate package. I was pretty close by the time I had this game done in getting the actual ultimate package, and I've had a game or two in a sense. Yes, I mean, it doesn't significantly change the characteristics of the tank. It does make it more easy to, in a game where you have the opportunity to do really well, because it's that bit harder hitting and it does that bit more damage without noticeable diminishment. There's a slight diminishment in the rate of fire, but it's pretty good gun for the tank. I must say my initial reaction on seeing that I was on Prokhorovka was one of sort of horror, really, that I was in a very large tin box in the middle of a very open field with not much or many places to go and hide. I don't think the back line is of much use. I think the back line, you're too far back and you're also too central. So you're only getting momentary or fleeting shots in tanks popping the ridge line, and you're either getting shots into tanks that are in their frontal armour, or you're getting shots in fast movers that are popping up and down in unexpected locations. Neither of which are activities that play to the strengths of the Sturer Emil. Now I'm going over here to the western side, try and get onto as high a ground as I can get and as far forward as I can get without being spotted. The reason being that if I'm on higher ground, I'm going to be facing the direction I need to run away in, because I need to run away from high ground to the low ground, and also I'm reasonable chance of getting side shots against heavy tanks that decide to poke the ridgeline and take the time to shoot. Whereas if I were in a more central location, I'd be only shooting those tanks in their frontal armour. That T-34-100 is pushed forward a bit too far forward, and his mistake when coming under fire was not losing the spot. Just pull back. Keep going back far enough to lose the spot. He stays there, and eventually the Tiger P decides to go out and finish him off, because he's a one-shot kill to the Tiger P. Now that T-25-2, as soon as he was spotted, he should have gone downhill, just drove away, drove out of range. He may or may not be spotted at the moment. He's probably no longer spotted if he's sitting in the bush, but the thing is, he's in an obvious bush and he was spotted right beside it. So anybody will have no problem guessing that he's in the bush, and here will be subject to blind fires if nothing else, and won't last, because he doesn't have that huge amount of hit points to start with, and there's an SU-152 out there as well, and something that did pretty big damage to him earlier on. I'm staying well back. I don't want to be in the line of fire tanks that are going to shoot at the T-25-2. There's a Tiger P there, and I was hoping to get some side shots into the turret, but he's not giving me a lot of turret to play with. We never contest the hill, so we're coming under pressure at the western side, southeastern side, sorry, where the enemy are attempting to push the railway bridge through the embankment. Now we're under pressure. The game is 3-all, but we're actually the ones under pressure, because we have no scouts effectively. We've no tanks with good view range that have the mobility to push forward on stealth. And the initiative's with the enemy, and we're making some mistakes. That tank that the Tiger P and others are shooting at over there by the village on the railway side, the Tiger P pushed too far forward, got tracked. The artillery actually had a great game and were really on the ball. But that tank is very vulnerable, because he can be shot from the hill if he pokes up. As can the guy in the centre, I would say, potentially. The enemy push up here a bit with Tiger 1, and he's going to run into two tank destroyers. We'll out view range him now. He did spot us, so I'm going to change my location. And I'm going to push forward a little bit, because I want to see if I can extend the view range of my tank out a bit. Now the T-25-2 was spotted as well, I would say, and he was in the bush. He'd been in the bush earlier on. There's probably people just waiting to shoot at him. The next thing I think we need to deal with is that those guys pushing the railway down there in the southeast. The big danger now is that if we push too far forward, you will see tanks becoming isolated, whereas at the moment we're all kind of mutually supporting each other. So if anybody spots anything or comes under fire, the other tanks can actually assist. The game is still even, but the initiative is still with the enemy tanks, and I've decided that my best bet for helping is to go and help the defense of the cap circle, because at the moment it's just that SU 100M1. What I was worried about is that the T-25-2 and the Bowl and the heavy tank might continue to advance up north, having spotted stuff in order to try and get shots on them, and they'd finish up get caught in a crossfire between artillery and tank destroyers, both tank destroyers to the north of them and tank destroyers to the east of them, on the railway embankment, or perhaps even down around the village. So we should try and deal with one threat at the time first. Well, I don't want to go any closer than this, because I think this is as close as I can get without being more or less guaranteed to be spotted. If I move any closer, I'm almost guaranteed to be spotted. And what I would be worried about is that I'm too slow to get away from any shooter on the ridge that would be able to fire over the railway at me if he was in the correct position to fire over the trains and catch me in the low ground. The SU-100M1 is taking a baton from artillery fire there. Now we've managed to get the T-29. So the T-25-2 looks like he's peaked a few times, but I don't think he's going to come through. He's got a lot less armour. Now he's got more hit points, but that T-29 got taken out fairly heavily as the T-29 coming after him. Back on the railway is an enemy heavy tank number 6. Looks like he's going to make a move now. He is in a position possibly to get... Well, I don't think he'll get fire on the T-25-2, because that guy's down the bowl. I doubt if he can be seen by him. The danger is if he comes around the top, he will be putting fire into the guys that are immediately defending the gap in front of the railway, and he could do a lot of untold damage in that fashion. Now he looks like he's going to make a peek at the very least, and I get a round into him, and then he decides he's going to go all the way. I don't think it's a mistake in his part. He just doesn't have the support to do it. Get a second round into him, but he's going to get into the low ground before I think I'll get my third round ready. Well, I got fire there, but I had a very limited target to hit, and it went well over. There's a tank destroyer in the village. It looks like his T-25-2 has come in over the railway, and it looks like he's heading north. There's a Yak Panther, but the artillery's after discovering my position. So I got to move. I'm going to sort of waiting for the second shot to come in. The artillery, our artillery, has managed to finish off the heavy tank number 6. I need to relocate somewhat to make the artillery, make life a little more difficult for the artillery for me, so that as soon as I get spotted again, they won't be just immediately lined up. Artillery's trying to hit something in the village, really. There's a tank destroyer on the hill. And the T-25-2 looks like he's making a move forward, so I thought I should try and get up as soon as I can to support him. Now, I was worried here that I made my move a little too late. There's nobody any longer within direct visible distance of the southeastern gap on the railway. So there's a Yak Panther in the village. I have no clean shot at it from here. The T-25-2 to the north of me has moved actually out of my supporting range. I am now at the wrong side of the ridge and I can't help him if he discovers anything. Which is why I'm urging him to stop until I can get into position. Once I crest the ridge, I should be able to shoot at anything he spots, so that would help him considerably. And he has spotted the artillery. So the artillery gets a shot into him before I manage to get the finishing shot. And that was, I think, a valuable shot, as he acknowledged, because he was in a crossfire there. He was with the artillery on one side and the T-25-2 on the other, and that could have gotten very nasty. And in SU-152 as well. Now, the SU-152 is not very accurate, but you know what they say about Russian accuracy. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. And if that shell drops within 10 meters of him with the high explosive variety, it'll probably wipe him out anyway. So far I'm unspotted, and artillery's managed to get I was spotted there momentarily, but I managed to evade any return fire, so I'm going to relocate somewhat in the hope that I put a bit more distance, and then I might have a better chance of being unspotted. Artillery still continuing to pound the last known location of the Su-152, and there's a Yak Panther in the town, in the village. Something up by the railway, and the Yak Su-152 is continuing to peek the ridgeline, trying to discover who's up here now. The Yak Panther goes behind the rock and back up. Come on, back up. He backs up, and I managed to finish him. So that leaves the Su-152. Now I put that round into him. I hit him, but I managed to fail to penetrate. However, the artillery gets a bit of a hit, but that is a solid hit from the artillery, and there's another solid hit from some other source, which is probably the T-25-2 up in the northwest. So there's still 3 tanks left, but the artillery are pounding around the Su-152's last known position. And it's not a very fast or mobile tank, and he's probably got modular engine damage and track damage at this point, which just makes him less fast and less mobile. As soon as I was spotted again, I'm picking up fire from the T-25-2 up by the road, and I think that is the Su-152 expiring from artillery fire. High praise to the artillery in this game. They've managed to keep us in the game. I don't think we would have fared half as well if we'd been trying to kill these tanks on our own without the support of the artillery. Because it's much easier to just poke the ridgeline and spot these guys than it is to try and poke the ridgeline and get a shot off against them. Now I decided to come down this side of the ridgeline because I was hoping to spot whoever was defending above, so that the artillery or the T-25-2 could finish them off. If the enemy T-25-2 is at the other side of the railroad, it's essentially impossible for artillery to hit him, because unless he's well back. And it looks like he's just peaked up again there. Looks like he's peaked the ridgeline there, so didn't get any kind of outline at all. So I'm going to have to go to the other side of the railway if I want a clean shot at him. And the artillery are going to have a tough time because he's on the reverse side of a slope, or else he's just so close to a very high embankment that they won't have an arc of fire directly onto him. We've made it to the railway line, and the other tank destroyer that was on the hill had been taken out by the heavy tank. So we just finished off the T-25-2. He wasn't even looking in my direction. He was paying attention to our T-25-2, so it was an easy shot. So we have 8 damaging ribbons and 9 assisted ribbons from scouting, essentially from the view range. So it works out at almost 2,000 damage, nearly 700 assistance damage, and we got a first class mastery. We didn't come number 1, we were number 3 by experience. The 2 artillery came ahead of us, but they had a very good game, and I think they deserved their result. Looking at the team damage scores and stuff on both sides, there's not a lot to pick between the 2 teams. The enemy artillery did better, and the T-25-2 did the most damage on the enemy team. It did the most damage of anybody in the game, I think. That's the last surviving T-25-2. Our top tier tanks have a better spread distribution of damage, and I think the difference really was that our top tier guys were less aggressive and were less inclined to rush in and isolate themselves from the rest of the team, so that when an enemy was highlighted, everybody was shooting at it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and share, and if you have not already done so, please subscribe, and I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.